But actually, in writing a book, as much as analytic clarity is, I think, an intellectual virtue, I don't think it's not the highest virtue for me. It's not the highest virtue. If I have to sacrifice a degree of analytic clarity for the narrative attractiveness which will prompt people to actually read the book, I'll take the latter.
We're going to take one last question.
One last question, gentlemen here.
I guess my is more of a comment, and it's I don't. Oh, okay. I guess it's regarding your issue as to why you're writing the book, and I guess what you just said sort of touches on what I wanted to comment on. You mentioned analytic clarity, in terms of like how are people objecting to this book as a document. And so the other argument is, should you do like a biographical approach, which is what you're doing, or should it be more thematic so that you can pull from like a greater pool of resources to give people an easier read, I guess. But for me, I think it's more honorable in the sense that it can be seen as a type of egalitarian literature. You mentioned his egalitarian efforts as a, not necessarily an abolitionist, but what I interpret this as being important it's an important artifact of history, because all too often we say there's not enough history about slavery, or you don't mention, slavery in history enough so that people can be, appreciative of our nation's history in a true sense. So I feel like this is important in the sense that you're providing people with a different sense of history. Like, yes, this was a very difficult time in our nation's history, but at the same time, there are people who are not of, African descent who, try to help the efforts of African Americans in whichever way they thought was feasible for their political agenda, which was sort of what you touched on for Thaddeus Stevens. Like, he realized that, although he wanted to, achieve this higher sense of egalitarianism in society, he was still sort of constrained by those factors. And I feel like that's also something that can be seen as a constraining factor in your study, in that it's focusing, empirically on Thaddeus Stevens as a good white man. I just think that maybe there are other things that could be important in considering